Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF is Giana Sisters, Twisted Dreams. Is it Giana or Giana? I have no idea, honestly. It's been a very long time since the last game in, I wouldn't even call this a series, because it was basically one game that came out on a variety of different platforms, and this one has a bit of a sordid tale behind it. The original Giana Sisters came out on stuff like I believe it came out on the Amstrad, Commodore 64, the Amiga, and it was nailed by Nintendo as basically a blatant Mario clone, and it was. Like, the first level was exactly the same design and things like that, but it became a bit of a cult classic for whatever reason. Now we have a fully reimagined game that has very little to do with the original whatsoever, aside from the fact that it uses some of the original soundtrack, which is of course being reinterpreted for this game, and it has the idea of collecting gems. Aside from that, that really is about it. It plays completely differently. So I had the chance to check this out in the form of Project Giana, in its alpha stages while it was doing its Kickstarter and its greenlight. Thankfully, it got through both. It got kickstarted, it got greenlit, it's now on Steam available to buy right now. So let's have a look and see what we can see, and we'll have a look at some of the changes that have been done since then. Over to adventure mode right here. Now let's have a look at how many levels this thing actually has. It's got quite a few, needless to say, and I believe it totals about 23. There's even a bonus level now that's been put in for Halloween. Now, one thing I did hear is that the final level, this one right here, requires you to 3-star pretty much all of the levels in World 3 in order to get to it. So that's a little bit of a dickish move, because of course people want to finish the game, and they're not able to do that if they don't actually get the full 3-star rating. 3-star requires, I believe, just collecting all of the gems on a level. I don't know if it's got anything to do with not dying, possibly not. Now, I'm interested to see what happens if I actually go under here. Will I actually die? No? Yes? Maybe? No. Absolutely fine to go down there. A little bit of a, I suppose, a blind drop, but it did point you down there with a bunch of arrows, so I guess it can't really be that bad. Now, there haven't been all that many changes made since the alpha, other than the obvious fact that there's just flat out more content in the game. It does feel a bit tighter, control-wise, than last time. I'm playing with a keyboard at the moment. I still prefer playing it with a controller, but that's just me and platformers. That's not actually something that you should be concerning yourself with too much. You don't have to play this with a controller, and it seems to work absolutely fine if you don't. Graphically, there have been a few improvements. They've enabled a couple of extra effects. You can go for DirectX 10 and 11 in this particular game, which is nice indeed. And the game looks absolutely gorgeous. It really, really does. I mean, it looks unbelievable. Would I say it's on the level of Trine 2, which is probably the benchmark? Yeah, it is. Let's be honest. It is the benchmark when it comes to 2.5D games. I don't know, I mean, it's pretty close. I think maybe it's got slightly less detail in the background, but aside from that, it's got a really wonderful aesthetic going on with it, and I love the way that it changes between the two styles. I'm not sure which I actually prefer. I think they both look great, but I think maybe the spooky style's just got a little, oh, God damn it, a little bit more character to it, just a little bit more. Now, I'm interested to see, and this is not really something we're going to get to see too much of in this video, unfortunately, whether or not in the other worlds you actually get different backgrounds to this, because you can clearly see the theme that they're going for here. I guess we're going down here. Let's find ourselves a few extra gems, because why not? The theme that they're going for is very much a creepy Halloween style versus a... Get up there, thank you very much. Versus a nice, verdant, pretty, almost cutesy style. And there's an interesting contrast with the fact that the character in the cutesy world is the punk rocker style character, and the one in the creepy, evil world is the supposedly innocent blonde-haired girl. I guess that's a part of their gimmick, but hey, there you go. Now, you can switch between the two worlds at will, kind of like that. It's not particularly difficult to do whatsoever. And also, this is an optional thing. You can change this in the launcher if you like. When you use the girl's specific ability, either the twirl right there or the fireball, it will change you between the two sisters. That can be turned off. You don't have to do that necessarily. Also, as you'll probably notice in the background, the music does change between the two worlds as well, which is really quite nice. So I'm going to shut up for a little bit and let you hear the two contrasting styles. I think you get the idea there. So when you change between worlds, it immediately changes the music style, but it also keeps the exact same point in the song. There are essentially 2 pieces of each music. That's a really clumsy way to say it, isn't it? What am I talking about? Today my English just isn't working all that well. It's almost like it's a second language. Let's try that one again. Yeah, there are 2 pieces of music, one in each style, and the fact that they are both completely synced up is really quite a nice technical feat. I don't know how difficult it is, but it certainly sounds impressive, and that to me is all that really matters. Can we actually get up there? I don't know, I'm curious. I might just want to... There we go. Wonderful. It's not too difficult to control with the keyboard, honestly. You can aim the fireball quite precisely without having to worry too much about it. A quick glide over in this direction, make sure we get all of the gems possible. No doubt somewhere on this level there's going to be a bunch of other gems hidden, and I cannot be bothered to hunt for them, honestly. I'm not going to go for completionist stuff in this game at the moment. Now, you can die very, very quickly, and as you probably noticed in the level select screen, there is actually an uber hardcore mode. That means when you die, you go back to level 1. Yeah, they're not messing around at all. Now, I'm dying on average probably about 2 or 3 times every level, so this is the kind of idea that I would never do in a million years. Good lord. It's insane that it's even there, but it's also cool that it's even there. Hey, why not? Might as well put it there. Some people are challenge junkies, some people are masochists. They want to do this kind of stuff. So, that's fine. That's entirely up to them, as far as I'm concerned. Just don't expect me to go anywhere near it with a 10-foot bloody barge pole. Alright. I wonder if you can then kind of bash through that. That's a possibility. The swimming is not exactly the most enjoyable part of the game. It mostly just involves bashing a button. There's definitely, pardon the pun, no fluidity to it. I'm gonna just miss a bunch of stuff over there. I know there's something up there, but... at this point, I just don't want to bother going anywhere near it. I'd like to finish the level so I could show you a bit more content. So, content-wise, the game does have quite a lot going for it. The levels are fairly long, and they do have a reasonable number of hidden secrets. Items-wise, the game doesn't really seem to feature anything. There's a shield, and that, as far as I can tell, is about it for the power-ups. I'd certainly like to have seen a couple more. I guess you don't really need them, but it does limit the variety of the game just a little bit. When I play platformers like this, me being a big fan of Mario, the old school Mario, that is, I like to pick up power-ups. I very much like to grab as many as possible. And since the game really doesn't have many to speak of, it's just a little bit disappointing. And I have a feeling that the platforming could get a little samey, at least for me, after a while. Just because they're not really introducing any new mechanics. They kind of blow their mechanical load at the very start of the game, saying, hey, you can do the whole twisted thing, and then, yeah, that's kind of about it. And when you twist between the 2 worlds, it will get rid of some obstacles, it will produce others, and things like that. And it does that from the very start. Now, some people might view that as a good thing, and I can see that being a fairly reasonable argument. Some people might say, oh, well, it's great that it does that, and it doesn't kind of tease you and slowly introduce mechanics as you go through the game. Some people just don't like that. They prefer to have their full tool set available to them from the very beginning. That's up to them, really. I mean, I don't see that being an invalid concern, but it is kind of subjective. Some people... Oh, come on, use the right bloody button. Some people really like that, some people don't. So you will have to judge as to whether or not that is a good thing for you. Now, what I will say is the game does have a bunch of boss fights and things like that. That isn't something that we've encountered just yet. The chances are that they're at the end of the worlds or whatever, so perhaps there is an interesting use of mechanics there. Maybe that's something to look at. Getting confused between the buttons. I should probably be using a controller. This would make things easier. I don't know what it is. For some reason, I just keep mixing the buttons up. I'm pretty sure that's my own stupidity rather than any fault of the actual game itself. There you go. Now, you can pick up artwork, which is its kind of bonus. I've never really liked that, you know. I've never cared whatsoever for concept art. That's something that I can probably find online. So, yeah, it's hard to really justify hunting for concept art. I don't mind picking up crystals, because it's like, hey, high score, things like that, but picking up concept art... Why would I do that? Why, oh why? Aside from that, though, content-wise, it does have these lengthy levels, and it seems like it's got a good few hours of gameplay. Price-wise, well, that has caused some consternation with some people. But once again, this kind of thing is so highly subjective that I really hate to discuss it. It's very hard for me to discuss it as well, because I get a lot of these games for free, so I've got to ask myself, well, who exactly am I trying to fight for here if I say, this game is too expensive, or this game isn't expensive enough, or this game is completely reasonably priced, and so on and so forth? Who exactly am I representing? And the answer is, well, nobody. So it's actually kind of a pointless argument to make, all things considered. It's telling me to go back down here. Wouldn't this just take me back down to the... Am I... it's down here, isn't it? I was going to say, am I missing something? Yes, I am. It was nicely hidden, it would appear. Smash our way all the way down here. I like the fact that the levels do have quite the range to them vertically. There's a lot of areas to explore. I don't think there's too much non-linear stuff going on. It seems like you always get your way to the exit using the same route, although that may just be because we're in some of the earlier levels. It's really hard to judge. I've always been a fan of the Sonic style of level design in Sonic 1, 2, and 3, whereby you could find your way to the end in a variety of different ways. That's wearing a horned helmet. Should I charge at it? Difficult to say. Uh-oh. On one way or the other, it doesn't seem like it wants to be engaging that at all, so let's just try and avoid that. One way or the other, even if it is a very straight linear level design, it does have a lot of hidden stuff and areas which you can go and explore, so it's hard to complain about it, really. Like, honestly, it's some of the better level design I've seen in a platformer for quite some time. Quick hop up there. There we go. It's quite the delightful little game, really, and I do appreciate the music, especially. I mean, I'm a fan of Machine Eye Supremacy. I mean, I have been for years. I really do enjoy their music. I've been promoting them since the WoW radio days, since before they actually had a record deal. So for me to see more Machine Eye Supremacy in the game is great. Jets and Guns was a game that Machine Eye Supremacy actually did the wrong button again, soundtrack to, and it benefited greatly from having that soundtrack. This game does as well. Overall, I think it's a really nicely polished platform with quite a lot to offer, but again, it does kind of show you almost everything it has to offer very, very early on mechanically, because the core mechanic of the game is switching between the worlds and using either the spinning pirouette move or the fireball move in order to bypass or otherwise destroy obstacles. Not sure I really want to cross that, it's a little bit spiky, let's just avoid that, there we go. Hover over in this direction. It does get pretty tricky pretty quickly, though. I will say that for a fact. It's definitely a challenge. I'm just going to try and avoid the rest of that and get to the end of the level at this stage. It's also kind of a completionist's wet dream because of the amount of stuff there is to find and the idea that the game really, really wants you to try and find all of the stuff it's managed to hide. It's nice. It's a really solid game, honestly. Platform-wise, it's difficult to find something at the moment that's better than this. I think this kind of stands amongst the greats on PC, like VVV, and of course, Dust Force, Super Meat Boy. But this is a way better optimized game for PC than Super Meat Boy, I can tell you that for a fact. Super Meat Boy was developed as a console game, this certainly was not, and it benefits from that. It has a good options menu, it controls nicely. It's still rock hard, though, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. Hard not to recommend it, really. If you are a platformer fan of the old-school variety, then you're going to find an awful lot to like here. What I'll say as well is that they've done a pretty nice job of discerning the backgrounds. This is a 2.5D game, and one of the criticisms I've leveled at a lot of 2.5D games lately is that they do a absolutely piss-poor job of showing you what's in the background, what's in the foreground. A lot of confusion can end up happening. Thankfully, this game doesn't seem to suffer from that at all. I'm not really sure why, but I think it's maybe because there's a massive amount of depth in the background. If you see just how far the background actually goes back, they do a solid job of differentiating between the two. So switch back here, and bounce off there, and God knows where I'm going now. I'm just completely and totally lost. Yeah, as I say, the level design does have some complexity to it. That's good. That's what I wanted to see. No multiplayer modes, unfortunately. There are score attack and time attack modes available, as well as hardcore and uber hardcore, so there is a degree of replayability there. Prices are on the screen right now. I think it really is beautifully crafted. There's been a lot of work put into this. They obviously had a really solid vision of where they wanted to go with the game. It also is one of the only games which features giant, what appears to be... they're a mixture of pufferfish and budgies and owls or something along those lines. Rather weird world, to say the least. That was a double whammy of disappointment, good lord. But yeah, it's good. I enjoy it for what it is. I've never really been much of a person for modern platformers. You know this. It's not something I'm very good at. I don't enjoy them all that much, but I can definitely see why this would be appealing, and it's probably worth a look. It's nice that they have also added some content into the game already. Hopefully they'll be able to add more in the form of free updates as well as DLC, because that's going to add to the lifespan of the game, and if you're going to drop $15, your original equivalent on this, then you do at least want some indication that there's going to be something coming after you've beaten the modes that the game actually has to offer. Really nicely put together, though. Very polished. Got a nice kind of AAA indie sheen on it. Graphically superb, without question. Sound assets are very well presented, and the actual platforming elements are rock solid in pretty much every respect. Have noticed a couple of bugs here and there, just a few. Nothing that's really stopped me from progressing thus far, just the occasional graphical bug. I saw one enemy stuck inside the terrain, so that's something they definitely need to fix. The underwater controls are also just a little bit disappointing. They don't exactly handle all that well. It's mostly a case of button mashing. I was hoping for some nice swimming mechanics there, but that was not to be. Aside from that, though, a twisted, weird world through this, I don't even know what to call it, but it looks great, sounds great, plays great. You might want to think about it. My name has been TotalBiscuit, taking a look at Giana Sisters, Twisted Dreams. I'll see you next time.